As I was introduced, I'm John. I'm actually, in my main job, I work at the University of Canterbury in aerospace engineering. But today I'm here to give you a little bit of new information about Horizon Europe. I just would like a rough show of hands. How many people have looked into Horizon Europe? Just about everybody. That's great. And something that, how many people have seen this report from REANNZ very, very recently? Okay, some of the people who wrote it, I understand. It's good. But there is some valuable background information there, setting the context and sort of the big picture scale of opportunity. What I want to do today is just give you a few more details and some details about what's coming up next. So, for the two or three of you that haven't heard about Horizon Europe, it's an enormous international research and development funding opportunity. And 2 years ago, New Zealand became associated. That means we can receive money from it. Being Europe, it's enormously bureaucratic, and there is lots and lots of jargon. Perhaps not quite the level of some of the talks today, but there is still a descending tree of terms. So New Zealand has only joined part of the Horizon Europe activity, and that's Pillar 2. That's important because about a third of the questions I get are, can I do this blah, blah, blah thing, which is not in Pillar 2. Pillar 2 is about taking existing ideas or technologies and bringing them up to a level that can be used in Europe. So all those words mean something. Yeah? The Europeans are doing this and letting us join their club in order to provide solutions in Europe. So if you say, I would really love to rationalise the health records in New Zealand, they'll say, we don't care. Yeah. So you need to keep that European scope in mind. The good thing is, though, that within this pillar, New Zealanders can apply and lead and participate fully, and it's not, I should say, it's not just for researchers. I said it's a research and development funding framework. There's a lot of emphasis on company participation, and particularly on SMEs. So there are some rules about what you need to be successful in Horizon Europe, and an SME is one of those. It's also really different to how we operate in New Zealand and other research funding frameworks. So they tell you what they want at the end, the outcome. So there's a plan called the work plan. Horizon Europe says, these are what we want to happen in this time frame. You're essentially bidding, it's like a tender process. You're bidding to be able to deliver the outcome. So the other type of interaction I often have with New Zealand researchers is, I've got this cool idea, can I? No, only if it serves one of the already decided outcomes. Yeah? What's new is that the framework is a seven-year-long activity. It has work programs. We've just finished one. There's a new one starting with new calls and new topics and opportunities they're saying quarter 2. I believe it's the middle of April is when it will be available. So at the moment, that's embargoed. Yeah, and that's a bit of a problem because you'd really like to know what's in it. If you'd like to know what's in it, come and stand behind me later. I'm not allowed to share this. However, it is widely shared in Europe, to be realistic. And if you do a Google search, you will find illicit, watermark copies on the web. So I think it's unfair not to be able to share the highlights with you. Okay. In terms of how you go about bidding for one of these topics, and we'll get to those in a minute, there are some rules. First of all, you need at least 3 countries, so you can't go it alone. And one of those needs to be a member state. There's some opportunities for New Zealand, particularly around this area here. There are some countries which are not associated or members of Europe who can automatically receive funding through the process. Okay. Here's a nice colour map that shows you where we currently stand in terms of membership. So you have to have a blue one. That's a European member state in your consortia. it can be a friend, it can be a company that's running a management company that's running the consortia, it can be a research organisation, and so forth. And then you need 2 others. So New Zealand has associated 2 years ago. Last year, Canada joined. Recently, and it's not updated here, but South Korea has also joined. Japan is also in talks at the moment, and we expect them to be associated in the next, probably next 8 months. So there's quite a lot to choose from. There's some notable grey areas on the map. It's kind of difficult to work with them anyway at the moment, so yeah, it makes sense. So something like, and also recently rejoined is the UK. So let's say a France, New Zealand, Canada team could apply to one of these calls, and that would fit within the rules. Now, technically they could apply, yep, and that's what the information will tell you. But actually, when we look at the successful proposals, the ingredients of a successful consortium usually include someone from Western Europe, someone from Eastern Europe, someone from Southern Europe, someone from outside Europe. Yeah? So it's good to have a bigger team, and the typical size of consortia in the area I'm going to talk about, the digital area, is 10 to 14 organisations partnering together. Yeah? It's not always the case. So the work program is divided into clusters. We'll get into the next level down in our taxonomy. And I'm here to represent digital industry and space and talk about that. So all that's important is probably what you're interested in is this is the number in euros and thousands of euros. Yeah. So cluster 4 is the best funded of the clusters and contains specifically this idea of digital. But if you were to read across all the other clusters, you would find digital is embedded in all of them. Yeah. It's just some of the more fundamental and leading edge things are specifically in cluster 4. So, okay. This is what people always ask. How is New Zealand doing? This is from October last year. I'm sorry I don't have any more current data. It's because MB moved to the PITO submission system and no longer tracks this data, which is unhelpful. But we have had a couple of wins so two successes so far in cluster 4. And New Zealand has about a 25% success rate in bidding for this pool of money. It's much higher than other domestic sources for research and development. Yeah? And remember, companies can get funded as well, so it can be quite attractive. So cluster 4, it's really about 2 things, what they call the twin transitions. One is the transition to a carbon-free economy, that's how they'd like to say it, and the other is a digital transition to moving things to automation, AI, and so forth. So you'll see a lot of new calls in the area of AI. Europe is not prioritizing general AI. It's prioritizing domain-specific agents, really. That's what its goals are. It realizes it's behind. You might have heard about the talks in Paris yesterday, and so forth. Yeah. So there are 8 companies that control the large models in the world. 1 is in China, 7 are in the US. 0 are in Europe. Europe has spent more than the others. They now realize this. It's like the electric cars. Yeah. Okay, so this is all the kinds of areas in cluster 4. I've had to put a star next to 2 of them because there are some restrictions on areas where Europe would like to have strategic autonomy, particularly around launch access to space and some quantum computing topics. Here's some examples of digital funded Horizon Europe proposals in the last couple of years, or in the last year, in fact. So I don't know if you know these people, but Urban Intelligence, Canterbury, I think. Predicting Disaster, it's in Resilience, and Lincoln, Agritech. Yeah. Again, we're finding, back on that chart I showed you, I should have explained this more. So cluster number 1 here is health. And cluster number 6 here is agriculture. So you can see that in New Zealand, that's where the bulk of the applications have been so far. Yeah? But not necessarily the bulk of the successes. Yeah. Yeah. Because there are lots of players in Europe in those areas too. Yeah. Okay, so this is what the draft would look like if you were to look at within cluster 4. We've now got destinations. So within the cluster we've got destinations. There are 6 of those, and I want to highlight 3. And within those destinations, there are individual calls, and they're on a timetable that is published sort of every 6 monthly throughout the work program. Yeah. And typically they have a duration of 2 to 4 years for you to deliver the outcomes in your consortium. Okay, so we've got, I've also given, just underneath, these are the shorthand ID names for them in the EU system. So there's one around data and data services. There's one around emerging technologies, which is things like edge computing and so forth. And this last one is probably the most interesting, and a lot of this is new content that hasn't been seen in previous work programs. There's a lot about virtual worlds, yeah? So augmented reality, technologies for augmented reality, and so forth. How humans interact with AI, or how humans interact with compute. Yeah? So, okay, I'll just flick through those. So here are some hypothetical calls that you might be seeing in April, were you to look, or were you to find out. And you can see there, well, okay, I should have explained, there are 2 types of actions. These are research and innovation actions, and these are innovation actions. These ones are primarily focused on research and fundamentals. The IAs are slightly different and would expect to have a company or an industry leading them. Yep. So, and you can see this focus here, particularly on rollout to networks in Europe. One that's really, well, here's something that everyone can get into, software engineering for AI. In previous iterations, this was just called software fundamentals, and it's been funded very well for at least 20 years, this topic. So it often takes diverse groups. This is probably the one which has the most scope for you to come up with your own stuff and to be flexible. So yeah, you can see AI and generative AI is particularly flavour of the month. In digital and emerging, it's kind of strange, but for it to be called digital, but perhaps, but quantum and photonics are in this area as well, and particularly sensing. Some others here: robust and trustworthy generative AI. Enhanced learning strategies, and so forth. These are my favourites. So within this large document, each one of these topics has a lot of explanatory text that I'm happy to share with you. Yeah? And some of the things are not what we might expect, or perhaps are, have a very European lens. So my favourite one is there's a line in the work programme that says, we must figure out a way to embed European values into robots. Yeah? So they're going to spend 12 million euros doing that. Okay? First, European values is quite a tricky subject, but embedding them into robots. So there's lots of subtleties and lots of detail behind each of these calls, but there are going to be some. You can see somewhere, perhaps New Zealand has some activity, learning strategies. There are also additional mechanisms, not in the clusters, that Europe has for funding specific projects. That's a very long and complicated tale. So the best thing to do, and probably if you're going to take anything away, is if you're interested in Horizon Europe, please just get in touch with me and we can sort something out. Yeah. Okay, and the last one, yes, as I said, virtual worlds is a new topic to Horizon Europe and very large, both on the software and the hardware side. Interoperable web and is also a new one. This area here probably requires a lot of meetings in Europe because all these activities are really about valorization. It's about getting value out of the other research and development that's taking place in Europe. Yeah. endless meetings in Brussels, probably. But there are also some interesting special topic ones. So there is, I've mentioned Gen AI for Africa. So there's also a new series of calls specifically with South Korea, and helping them become more standardized and working with Europe better as well. Okay, so there are some steps to embarking on this journey, and I realize I'm using my time. The first and most important step is to get in touch with one of the national contact points, so I'm one of the national contact points, and we can help you with all the other steps. So, worth a go. So there is another mechanism, which I'll get to in a second as well. So the first one says there is a network of contact points. Here am I for. There is no wrong door. If you know any of these people, and there's probably one at your local university or CRI, they can point you in the right direction and give you the material or get you started. There's one I will point out. Some of you may know Andrew Spall. He's the Indigenous NCP, but he also takes most of the queries on data sovereignty. So he's really helpful with that. Yeah. We also have a couple of people, new people in Europe to help us on that end of things. So Mary and Cecile. Yes, I will share these slides afterwards. So, yeah, they're clickable links. We've all got really, informative email addresses. So the other thing that's of interest, particularly to companies and organisations, companies in New Zealand, is the top-up scheme. Europe, writing contracts is writing you to achieve some work. Yeah? They don't have the same overheads model that we would have in the New Zealand research system. However, MB will top up the overheads to meet our requests up to a value of $1 million, or just over $1 million per project. So the cost for that is that you must tell MB about your proposal. So that's the price, right? $1 million to let them know you're doing it. Seems fair to me. So I would encourage you to do that. There's lots of information on the webpage there at the moment. The last thing I just want to mention is a common question I get is about IP, particularly in the digital area. So it's in this part of Horizon Europe, it's generally accepted that people own their own IP and background IP, and that they will create an agreement before they start doing some work to assign the IP that comes out of the combined work. And there's plenty of background reading for all these topics as well. So, thank you very much.
Has anyone got a burning question that can't wait to wait for
Any question at all would be nice. Doesn't have to be burning. Okay. Yes. Yeah.
Part of the Horizon Europe, do the participants get access to the Euro HPC program to get access to the European countries' new facilities that are being deployed as part of Euro HPC?
So that depends on the call, and so there is facilities to do it. I guess that's the answer. Is it's a longer answer than I can give you now, but yeah. So it's possible. Yeah. Yeah. That's what I'll say. It's possible and depends. So send me an email and I'll give you some more information on it. Yeah.